Cantelli said. "Maybe someone's jealous of you." Horton sat at a desk so overflowing with paperwork that it looked in danger of collapse, and eyed Cantelli incredulously. "Barney, I live on a borrowed boat. I'm about to get divorced. My estranged wife won't let me see, let alone speak to my daughter, who she's intent on sending away to a boarding school against her wishes, and the only woman I thought I could get close to has put herself beyond my reach by returning to Sweden. How could anyone possibly be jealous of me?" "Thea Carlson's still in touch with you, isn't she?" Cantelli asked, throwing himself into the seat opposite Horton. Horton shook his head. No. He felt a mixture of sadness and anger that the slender, fair woman he'd rescued from a burning building less than 2 months ago had turned her back on him. He had hoped something might come of their feelings for one another, but he should have known better. They both carried too much baggage. In a moment of bitter disappointment, he had accused her of running away from her pain, her brother's death, but she had calmly replied, "Isn't that what you've been doing for over 30 years? She'd been referring to his mother's disappearance when he was 10. She was right, and even though 2 recent cases had opened up the past for him and given him leads, he'd not pursued them. He hadn't even looked at the missing persons file since returning to duty 4 weeks ago. He felt a stab of guilt and then anger that he should be made to feel guilty when his mother had deserted him, not the other way around. "It could be a threat, then," Cantelli posed, frowning with concern as he once again studied the symbol. "Some kind of coded warning, perhaps." Horton had already considered this, along with who would threaten him and why. He had enemies, who didn't in this job, and although he sincerely hoped that the more dangerous of them were banged up, he wasn't going to bet on it, not with the way the justice system seemed to be operating. But one particular villain had sprung to mind, and one he had never seen. Neither did he know his real identity, only that the head of the Intelligence Directorate, Detective Chief Superintendent Sawyer, called him Zeus because he wielded his thunderbolts to control his family of crooks and kill anyone who stepped a millimetre out of line. And that brought Horton right back to thoughts of his mother, because Sawyer had told him she might once have been associated with Zeus. Sawyer had hoped to enlist Horton's help in running Zeus to ground, but Horton had refused. Not out of fear for himself, but because he knew the Zeuses of this world wouldn't hesitate to get at him by hurting his daughter, and that was a no-brainer as far as he was concerned. But, he reasoned, an international villain like Zeus wouldn't be arsing around scratching symbols on his Harley. The threat would have been much more physical and painful. Cantelli said, "Someone at the university might know what that symbol means. It means some brainless lowlife gets his kicks from vandalizing other people's property, and I'm going to find out who it is." Reaching for his phone, Horton added, "I shall view every CCTV tape from all the cameras in the area, including those along the seafront, and—" "Inspector Horton!" Cantelli started and jumped up, while Horton quickly stifled the groan that had automatically sprung to his lips as he stared at the taut, thin figure of the head of CID. Detective Chief Inspector Lorraine Bliss, who was standing in his doorway and looking about as friendly as the Grimpen Mire. She wasn't due back from her secondment at HQ for another fortnight, so what the devil was she doing here now? He replaced the phone and flashed Cantelli a look. By the sergeant's expression, it was clear, though, he was equally surprised by Bliss's sudden reappearance. Maybe this was a short visit, Horton thought hopefully, and she'd quickly returned to HQ, where she had been examining pay and performance. Pointedly consulting her watch, she said curtly, "You're late." Horton stared at her hollowed face and sharp green eyes, resenting both her manner and her comment. With an effort, he bit his tongue to stem the automatic retort, the desire to remind her of the countless times he'd worked late, come in early, or during his off-duty days. "My office, now." She turned on her heel and marched away, leaving him to stare at the light brown ponytail, the narrow backside in the tight black skirt, and the head held so high that he wondered if there was something stuck on the ceiling of the CID operations room. "What's wrong with her office?" Cantelli said. "Hopefully it's infected with a plague of locusts," Horton said with bitterness rising. "I take back everything I ever said about Friday the 13th being a load of superstitious old bollocks. Get hold of those CCTV tapes for me, Barney, and find D.C. Walters before the Wicked Witch of the North notices he's missing." Horton dived into the corridor, wondering if Bliss's colleague...